was sitting here and I'm like,
Someone's got you?
good thing they put the PowerPoint up there because I couldn't read anything.
He's trying to switch that for me, so that's too far away. I guess it's one more meeting, have to put it up to here. Very partial. Where is
That's true, it's like easier for him
It's
to just kind of
central,
stay like.
it's about, if you're on the throughway, there's a burger exit and then there's. Which is 30.
So that's not too far.
No, it's about an hour and 15 minutes or so. And it's almost all through. So
I think these same things information are necessary.
Which, I mean, I'm not saying that.
I just was like, we didn't say it explicitly. So.
Yeah, even though we still have
We always reserve the right.
the right, but it's better to say it.
Very funny reaction, we were just chatting.
That's not.
yes.
As soon as I get the green light here. We'll get started in just a moment, folks, as soon as I get the green light here. All right, Chair. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Sheriff Ron Spike, Chairman of the Municipal Police Training Council. I welcome everyone to the 262nd meeting of the council. And I would ask that we all rise. Chief Parisi will do the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We could just remain standing for just a moment of silence in respect and honor of all those that have passed away and served service of public safety and in our military. Thank you. We will do some introductions this morning and go around. It's very nice to have all 10 members of the council present with one on the screen. And that's kind of a rarity, and it certainly gives us a quorum for sure. So I welcome everyone, and starting to my left, please introduce yourselves and who you represent.
Bruce McBride, Commissioner of Police, SUNY, retired.
Deborah Long, community member.
Deputy Chief Michael Cassidy, NYPD.
Colonel George Nohai, New York State Police.
Michael Bonds, Deputy Commissioner for Office of Public Safety here at DCJS.
Johanna Sullivan, Director of the Office of Public Safety here at DCJS.
Dee Medina, DCJS.
Gabe Maruso, Office of Public Safety, DCJS.
Sarah Dean, Office of Public Safety, DCJS.
Michael Puckett, Office of Public Safety, DCJS. Joshua Vinehout, Office of Public Safety, DCJS as well.
Command Slater, Office of Public Safety, DCJS.
Natasha Harvin Locklear, DCJS Legal.
Colleen Glavin, also DCJS leader.
Joe Popkin, Executive Deputy Commissioner, DCJS.
Rosanna Rosado, Commissioner, DCJS.
John Mueller, MTAPD.
Olga Rivera, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Corrections.
Tim Parisi, Chief Ilion Police Department, representing the New York State Association of Chiefs of Police.
Maureen Curtis, Safe Horizon.
Okay. Here, please.
Kara Gordon, Office of Public Safety, DCJS. Kayla Richards, Office of Public Safety, DCJS. Jennifer Barr, Office of Public Safety, DCJS.
Tom Mitchell, Counsel, New York State Sheriff's Association.
Dan Neville, Office of Public Safety, DCJS.
Holly Bates, Office of Public Safety, DCJS. Trina Blow, Office of Legal Services, DCJS.
Todd Murray, Office of Public Safety, DCJS.
John McElwain, New York State Police.
Jim Clear, New York State Police.
All right.
She didn't call the peer.
All right, thank you. Remotely, we have a council member, Sheriff Tuan. Can you hear me, Sheriff?
Yes, I can. Thank you and good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Sheriff. Thank you. And there are some others that are remote as well. Is Chief Obey from NYPD training on there?
Hi, the
All
chief
right,
is, the chief stepped away. She'll be right back.
I don't know if you guys can hear me. Good morning. I'm on. Can you hear me?
Yes, chief.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Morning.
All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
And we have Dr. Messenholder from NYPD.
Good morning, all.
Good morning. Thank you. And Deputy Chief of the New York City Police Academy, Peter Fortune, you on there?
Chief Fortune is not going to be joining us today.
Okay, Chief. All right. I think that's it that I'm aware of. All right. Very good. Very good. The first thing I'd like to do is to adopt the agenda that's before us. Before we do anything else, it's got some action and approval items on it, as well as some informational updates, any new business, if any, and for council members and any others that wish to receive it, we have some ethics training required at the end of the session. I entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve the agenda. A second? Second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same. All right, the agenda has been approved. I would now see if Commissioner Rosado would like to make some opening remarks. Commissioner, welcome.
Thank you, and welcome everyone. I want to say that my voice is affected by the smoke, but it was like that before. So I started to count the time based on these quarterly meetings. It helps to mark the year. I've been saying this week, I'm still in shock that we're halfway through this year. So making mental note of all our goals for 2023, we're almost at the halfway point. Beyond the outstanding work that the staff does here, these meetings are opportunities for me to take stock of where we are in the year and what we've accomplished and what we have on the horizon. So I can't believe we're halfway through, but here we are. And it's been a very active year so far. For us, in many positive ways, we've got resources to invest in the work that you all do. We have a lot to do in the months to come, and we're grateful that the enacted budget last month included the most funding in the 50-year history of DCJS to continue to make communities safer, stronger, resilient. Thanks to the governor and the legislature, we have record investments in the GIVE initiative, the Crime Analysis Center Network, ATI and reentry programs, as well as sustained commitments to communities through Snug Street Outreach and Project Rise. So I feel that we're fortunate to be able to invest, on all sides, and we're starting to see the positive impact of last year's work. And so we're hoping we have some time to innovate and do more investment at that street level, at the community level. Presently, my team and I are touring 15 cities. Where are we, 3 in? Yeah. 3 into the 15. Last year we did 7 to meet with our funded partners and hear from them about what is working. We had a meeting in this room last week with the Albany folks and really listen to what is needed and how we can help. I look forward to sharing more updates about that. And then before I turn the agenda back to Chairman Spike, I want to take a moment to recognize MPTC member Chief Tim Parisi for 7 years of dedicated service to the council. Thank you. I, for one, am envious of retirement, so I will live vicariously through you. So thank you for more than 35 years of service to the people of the state of New York. We wish you all the best and continued success in the next chapter of your life, which includes your wife's little honey to-do list. I think you'll be done with that in the first 6 months. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Commissioner. It's a great lead-in to the presentation that we want to make to Chief Parisi. He's got 35 years in law enforcement as of now, if I've got that right. I believe I'm pretty close to that, and 18 years as Chief of Police, correct? And so he's served on the council since 2016. And we've certainly done a lot of business regarding advanced training and basic police and peace officers. And I think of all the model policies that we have had to work on and discuss with all the great staff at DCJS who helps us greatly. And then, of course, the big one is the enhancement of the hiring regulations for police officers. If I may, I'd like to make a presentation to you, Chief, on behalf of the council and DCJS. I'm not sure who else wants to come up here to be a part of this. Commissioner, would you like to come up? Do you want to get the flag in?
Yeah, you know what I'd like to do.
Okay, what would you like to do? Always do what the PIO says.
And we're gonna move this, because we don't want an open box in the back of the photo.
All right.
Thank you, Maureen. And then if we could all sort of, and I'm gonna go in there somehow.
Drop the phone.
Oh, did I leave it up there?
You like your camera?
It's a long day already, guys.
That's probably the best right there.
Okay.
Got an opening?
Yep. Of course, I'm taking the long way around.
I thought she'd go under or over.
Yeah.
I was gonna go under, but I'm wearing a skirt. It's all nice to know that this is being captured live on YouTube. All right. Perfect. On three, 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. And one more. Just check. Everyone's eyes are open. We're ready to go. Thank you.
Dedicated to law enforcement and public safety, and we appreciate everything you've done for the council.
Thank you very much.
Yep. All right, thank you.
Another plaque.
Yeah. All right, Jim, did you want to say a few words, or?
I just wanted to, I will say thank you. Unexpected, I appreciate that. And I found working with the DCJS and this council very rewarding, very informative. And it's been a great experience to be a part of it and provide the input. So I thank everyone for all of their input and a lot of people that I've met over the course of the last few years. Thank you very much. This is very humbling. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, thank you. The next order of business would be the approval of the minutes that were disseminated to us for the 261st meeting we had in March. And if there are no additions or corrections, I would entertain a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second. I have a motion and I have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any nays? There hearing none, the motion is approved and those minutes are accepted. Before we get into the action items today, I want to remind council members that in the information that has been sent to us by DCJS regarding the business of the meeting, that many times there are multiple motions that go with the different work here, and that council would appreciate it if we would read those meeting motions, if we read them out loud into the record as they are written, it would work really well, and I won't get in trouble if we do it that way. So, all right, very good. The first order of business is the summary and recommendations on the MPT course review, which has been a major task, I would think. Michael?
Yes, sir.
And if you want to go ahead.
Morning, Chairman, members of the council. Yes, it has been. It's a process that I believe I briefed you on when we met last meeting. It was a collaborative effort. Myself, Josh, Molly, Dan, certainly Sarah helped tremendously in her institutional knowledge of kind of the back end reporting process. We come to these council meetings and we present these courses and we get approvals, and those courses are then into the world to be run, and sometimes we don't kind of circle back and address the courses later on, and some of those courses become dated and potentially unused and potentially causing some liability. So we've got about 75 Municipal Police Training Council approved courses. The goals of this review is really to make sure that we're using staff resources in the most effective way possible. We've got statutorily required training that we need to run. We've got that support that statutorily required training, so we really need to focus staff resources on those courses. We want to make sure that the courses that the council is endorsing represent best practice in whatever practice area that is represented by the topic. Laws change, as you know. Laws change sometimes very quickly, and in the past few years have been a flurry of law changes. So we want to make sure that that's going on, with council endorsed courses. We want to make sure that if we have training models out there, that they're evidence-based. We've learned a lot about the way that people learn. I've talked to all of you about that numerous times now in the past few meetings, and so we want to make sure that when we're putting out training that we're doing that in a way that is evidence-based. We want to make sure that if we have outdated curricula that has a potential to cause liability for agencies, we're circling back and addressing that. And certainly things change, laws change, best practices change, and we want to make sure that we're taking a hard look at some of the content. The way that we went about doing this was, and you'll see in your materials here, there's a rating scale. I want to emphasize that the rating scale was not dispositive as to our decision to recommend removal or to continue to support the course, but it was a good exercise for us to engage in to get an idea of how many courses there are, when they're being run, when they were last updated. We had some surprises, frankly, courses scoring higher in this objective review than we thought, and we had courses that were scoring lower in this objective review. And we found courses that we didn't know we had too, so that was a good exercise. The scale, those objective factors, last updated, required by law, yes or no, supporting an instructor requirement, if other available courses exist serving that same need, maybe from a third party, a vendor, an association, frequency that the courses are run, required to be delivered to receive funding, for instance, is one of the rating categories. So we had a number of categories. There was some subjectivity here, right? We attempted to make an objective rating scale, but there's necessarily some subjectivity. That's where kind of the institutional knowledge came into play in us assigning these rating scales. I'm happy to talk about the scale. It kind of speaks for itself. We weighted certain things higher than others. For instance, required by law was a higher ratings scale than frequency of offering, right? So we did that and just made our best judgment calls as to how those should be weighted. I'm happy to talk about those, but I think they kind of speak for themselves, so I'll entertain any questions about those.
I did have a lengthy conversation with Josh, I think last Friday it was, regarding when the material come out. And it's clear to me that much of this was outdated from what it was when it was some of it was required. I've been around long enough to know that we had to come up with something back at the time. Much of it has been absorbed within basic training and then other special trainings that we have. So it's not that it's going away, which might worry some. It's already been addressed in other ways. I was concerned regarding the CPL requires peace officers on the conductive energy device training, whether we were into a legislation issue, but I think that that was explained to me, so I'm okay with that, so,
I was going to actually go through and address each course individually
Okay.
as well, sir. That way, if you
All
have
right.
questions about the specific courses, because there's a lot of.
As a,
lot of information.
just in review, I just wanted to mention that so that others on the council would know that it may seem like, why are we doing away with something when it's being addressed, so.
Agreed.
Yeah, go ahead,
I
Mike.
appreciate that as
Yeah.
well, sir, yes. So I'll just kind of move. Oh, yes, sir.
Question. Great undertaking, no questions about that, and the matrix was well constructed. But what does supports instructor requirement mean?
Sure. So if there's a course that needs when the checklist. So Sarah's operation, when an agency runs a course, they'll submit a course approval request and they'll submit a curriculum content form. Her staff will have a checklist for the particular course that's being submitted for, and sometimes there's an instructor requirement there that's listed that's above and beyond, for instance, just being a police officer. And so if a course supports the creation of that instructor requirement or that instructor for that course, that's what that would mean.
Okay.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. That was correct. One of Sarah's roles here is to kick me if I say anything wrong. She's actually seated over there, but I asked her to move here.
I saw her leg swing once.
So what I'm going to do is address each course just individually. I'll pause and ask questions. I'm going to, because of the volume of information and some of the nature of these courses being somewhat dated, I'm going to just read from the materials here. The first course is the Street Encounters course. It's a classroom 8-hour course that provides an overview of officer safety, law, both statutory and case law, traffic stop, search and seizure for police officers in New York State, and was intended to focus on street-level encounters where firearms may be involved. The course was run exclusively by DCJS, Office of Public Safety, from 2009 through 2012. It has not been offered in more than 10 years, and that the fact that there's case law discussions going on there, and this course is at 10 years old, should give you an idea of some of our concerns about some of that. The course is being recommended for removal by DCJS to the council. I'm happy to answer any questions about that course. There are none? I'll move on. A companion course to Street Encounters, Advanced Street Encounters, also an 8-hour course. It's intended to be run after the initial course. It gives an overview of use of intelligence, spotting concealed firearms. There's scenario-based instruction within this, also run from 2009 through 2012, also offered only by DCJS, also not offered in the past 10 years. If you recall, in 2015, we presented a reality-based training program designed to address scenarios. This is developed prior to that, and so some of the best practices that we adopted or the council adopted during that program are not accounted for here, and there's certainly a concern when it comes to firearms of officer safety issues should this course be run. But again, it has not been run for 10 years, so we're also recommending this course for removal.
Yeah, much of those objectives are covered in reality-based training, seems so now, if I'm correct on that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We're in a different world than we were in 2012 with respect
Yeah,
to scenario-based
well, I mean,
training use.
if people think back, there was a rash of different encounters, police on police type of thing, and we knew we had to address it, but it served its purpose well.
Agreed.
But it is what it is now.
So if there are no more questions, I'll move on to the next course. We have the General In-Service course for police officers. Course is a checklist of topics that can be run annually. In order to qualify as having been completed, specific topics must be covered and grouped into legal, law enforcement skills, community interaction, emergency management, investigation, and then some electives. The course is a minimum of 21 hours long, and that should sound familiar. Anyone familiar with the accreditation program that we have? That's the number of hours required for training for accreditation purposes. This course was developed, in fact, to support the accreditation program, developed in 1989 for that purpose. The course doesn't actually have any content. It's just a checklist. It's an administrator's guide that gives guidance to agencies that wanted to run these topics. So it's not really a course in itself at all anyway. It's just a compilation of additional courses. We currently have a compilation similar to that we provide to agencies proactively, and it has not just the 21-hour topics here, but a vast array of additional topics, and we continue to update that, including the online training that we develop. And so we're recommending for removal of this general in-service course for police officers. It's very, very rarely run, and doesn't, even by accredited agencies, is not necessary to run for those accredited agencies to meet that minimum 21 hours of in-service training. Happy to answer any questions about that.
To add to Mike, obviously after every council meeting, we send out a memo to law enforcement agencies advising them of the actions that the council has taken. And in that memo, we will ensure that a link is provided to this document that Mike just referenced for in-service training resources. And really, it's a compilation of multiple topics with training material attached to it. So they can pull the training material, they can use it in whole, they can use it in part. And as Mike mentioned too, it has links to online training as well as webinars. So it's really a one-stop kind of clearinghouse of training materials that are available that we feel are probably much more useful for agencies now compared to the 1989 actually was proved, the 21-hour in service.
Yeah. Well, there was a time when you all were called BMP, if those that have been around a while can remember that maybe. But there was something called an intermediate course that after you went through basic, after your third year or so, you had to take this. And there are those, Dr. McBride, that sometimes we've discussed the idea that might be necessary going forward, but it's very similar to that concept, I believe, don't you think?
Yes. Yeah, in looking at the materials and doing a quick review of things that have changed over the career, this was a good idea to have the 21 hours, but I don't think it took hold because there was no requirement. It was a suggested type of thing. But I think that with accreditation filling the void, that requires agency to just not do a checklist, but a whole number of courses that can be used. So I understand the whole thing, I think.
Appreciate that, sir.
But it was a good idea at the time.
Oh yeah, 100%. We just feel that we filled the void that this course not being run is left. And in fact, in-service training I think is far superior now in terms of content, number of hours, and the way we go about addressing what needs to be trained. So if there are no further questions, I'll move on to another course here, the conducted energy device course. You recall in 2009, the council adopted an 8-hour conducted energy device course in kind of as a standalone course where the vendor courses were also offered and required, in fact, by the vendor as a stipulation of utilizing the particular conducted energy weapons. At that point, the market had multiple options, Taser being the obvious big player, but there were multiple options. And since that time, that's not really the case. And Taser really is the only program. The weapon system themselves have evolved since that time, and our course has not evolved with those weapon systems. There are multiple of those weapon systems on the market just from Taser, including the X26 weapon and all of its different variations, the X2, the 7, and now the Taser 10. And so really, we're not in a position to keep up with the evolution of these particular devices, but the vendor is. The vendor's course is also approximately 8 hours of instruction, and I'd be happy to answer some questions about the Taser course. I'm not a Taser instructor, but I have spoken to Taser instructors with particular questions that I've anticipated you may ask about that program. But the Taser conducted energy device is on version now 23 of the Taser instructional program. And so their courses have evolved, obviously, with the generations of Taser products that they provide, but also with respect to some of the evolution of case law that's been adopted with this particular device. And again, we have not kept up with that with the CED course. And so what we're asking is a novel to be sure. We're asking the council to endorse the vendor's training program, the conducted energy device program from Taser, as the training program for that particular device. And where this really becomes an issue and why really we have to speak about it at the council is that the criminal procedure law requires that peace officers receive training in another weapon that they carry, including the CED, and then receive annual recertification training. That training by CPL was required to be endorsed by the Municipal Police Training Council. So that's why we're here asking you to endorse this vendor-specific training program. I believe that's it. Are there any questions?
Well, the Training Directors Association support this concept as well, as I understand it. Is that
IADList
Yes.
has endorsed the course as an IADList course.
Don't know about Chief Miller or Parisi, IACP. Do you know if they go with the manufacturer? Yeah. Don't know. Yeah.
They have a model policy for conducted energy weapons that is covered, IACP does, that is covered during the TASER course. So there is some level of affiliation between those organizations.
All right.
It's pretty thorough. I mean, we've used it for many years in our agency. My captain has been an instructor with TASER for probably since we got them back in 2005 or 6. So it's a pretty extensive, it's pretty informative, it's really thorough course. So I think you're right, having to try to keep up with as they bring out.
Especially their very latest T model, I believe it is, changes, you need all the manufacturer training to keep up with that.
The TASER 10 is a vastly different conducted energy weapon than the previous models. So the training that we are able to provide to that particular platform when it's released is we can't keep up with the type of training. And so when we talk about evidence-based training practices and making sure that we're not instilling bad motor programs, that those issues start to become relevant here.
All right.
My only question is, does that require like a monitoring to evaluating if their course changes or anything like that? It might have to, not changes with respect to, or with respect to equipment, but changes maybe because they're multi-state, it's more than just New York State. Is there some mechanism that might need to be?
I think the motion's been worded in such a way that it will account for some of that. To your New York State specific points, sure, we're going to have to address changes in law here that may affect it. The course, if it's delivered as part of a basic academy, so a police academy or a peace academy that decides to deliver, they also have to deliver, of course, the 11-hour minimum standard for police use of force training, or corrections if it's for a correctional pretrial detainee situation. If the course is run separate from the academy, Sarah's shop will also flag and require that the 11 hours is run as a component of this course there as well. So they're getting the most up-to-date use of force information. And quite frankly, to your point about the TASER program being comprehensive, they have a very comprehensive and in line with what we teach with respect to use of force part of the conducted energy weapon program as well, sir. But we'll have to have somebody in the office certainly maintain finger on the pulse of the TASER program, sir.
So you will register any training in this regard in your records?
Yeah, so peace officers will still need to report that training to us through the same process that they're currently using.
Okay. All right.
And can I, along the lines of what Chief Parisi asked, do they ask for feedback through evaluations of the officers that are trained to tweak future trainings if needed?
I don't know. There's a fairly robust instructor program for TASER. So they have these master instructors that they certify, and those instructors have to recert, I believe, every 2 years. And there's not a whole lot of them. And then they create lower level instructors who will instruct the line officers. So the TASER program it's a comprehensive training program, but they really have been around for a long time and have a lot of, their corporate structure, a lot of mechanisms for feedback. So I can certainly find out for you, but I anticipate that they probably do. And that drives their product development too, of course.
And one of the requirements too, to deliver this course
would be and report it to DCJS and have it as an MPTC approved course. The individual would at minimally have to be a general topics instructor, meaning they've gone through our instructor development course. And a component of that instructor development course is evaluation and feedback from students. So that'd be naturally automatically built into it. And then them as TASER instructors, that feedback can then be generated back to the manufacturer to maintain that instructor certification. That communication is happening.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
When we define TASER training, are we talking about the operation of the particular TASER itself? Or is it a combination of the operation of that particular TASER and the policies of the organization itself?
So I will cover, I'll go over quickly the TASER certification that we're at, what the program covers that we're asking for. The policy would be in addition to, but I would tell you that that would be the same thing for the program that we're asking to be evaluated here, would be that the policies would be in addition to that. So this is the 8-hour course. It's an overview of the nervous system, an overview of neuromuscular incapacitation, or MMI, safety considerations, medical crisis signs, preferred targeting zones, sensitive populations, nomenclature specific to the particular model that is being utilized, use of force from the constitutional perspective, IACP model policy on energy weapons, tactical considerations, injury risk, de-escalation, deployment considerations, drive stun mode, animals, post-incident procedures, voluntary exposure, which is fun, and training considerations for the TASER. And so that's the crux of the 6-hour block of instruction. Separate from that, there is an hour dedicated for an in-person exam, of which 100% pass rate is required, and then also a practical application where the trainee has to deploy cartridges. The manufacturer then requires, and this is separate from what we're asking here, an annual certification where there's a practical application requirement as well, a qualification, if you will.
And Mike, if I could you've looked at it and then talked with them about the consistency with ours. One of the things when we talked about this internally was ensuring, kind of to your point, Tim, is that there's no inconsistency with currently what we teach and what our policies are here. And as you indicated before, you don't see that. So
the only inconsistencies would be that ours haven't kept up with some of the stuff, I would say, is why we're here.
But I mean, with other, like our use of force and all of the things like that, it's
correct.
Consistent with what we're teaching.
Yes.
The hard skills of operating the device is where it's inconsistent. It's impossible to keep up with the different iterations of the device. And you also walk a very fine line of copyright infringements too, using materials that very closely align with theirs in order to properly train on the skill development for an officer to utilize the device. So that's really where the catch is on this, is you just can't keep up with in the bulletins that come through, the updates to the devices that push through. It's electronic piece of equipment. Yep. So there's quite a few changes as compared to firearms. To be different animal all of itself.
Okay, very good. Sheriff Toulon, you employ a lot of peace officers. Do you have any concerns regarding this?
No, not at all. I think it makes perfect sense, and everything was very clear regarding the training and the necessity. So I'm okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Dr. McBride.
Is it safe to say that because this is vendor specific, that we're going to monitor this closely? Because in principle, just in principle,
yeah,
when you align yourself with a vendor, sometimes vendors change, and so.
It's safe to say I think we probably would have to monitor.
Good.
Suspect that I'll be the one monitoring.
Deputy Superintendent, any issues with the state police regarding this?
No, I mean, we have kind of a hybrid program. Obviously, we use the Axon, we use their program. And our one tech sergeant, Phil Shappy, is a master instructor. So we've held instructions at the academy for the instructor development type scenarios. But like you said, I mean, it's nomenclature, the nervous system, Axon or tasers, basic policy. And then we weave in our use of force policy, our procedures on how to report a use of a CEW. And then also it's kind of like how you decide where you, as an agency, want to place the equipment on a gun belt. So there is a, I would say 80-20, 80% of the manufacturer's recommended instruction, and then 20% is kind of tailored to the agency.
All right.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm glad you mentioned Phil as well, sir. Tech Sergeant Shappy has been instrumental in helping me to understand the program, because again, I'm not a TASER instructor, and he's been a wealth of knowledge, providing us the materials to review and, answering questions that I anticipated may come up, but I'm not going to answer any of them till they're asked.
John, any concerns on your part? Okay. All right. Okay, Michael, thank you.
You're welcome. Moving on, the radar operator course. The course was originally adopted by the council in 1989. Instruction focused on speed enforcement and radar principles. In 2001, the course was updated to include a LiDAR component, so a laser speed detection device component, operator course. So we have now a standalone radar operator course that we're asking to be removed because it's been replaced by a radar LiDAR operator course, which is just one additional day of instruction. And that's 22 years ago now that course has been replaced.
It's a national.
Oh, correct. Yeah, it's a NHTSA national curriculum as well. We don't actually maintain the curriculum for that course. If there are no questions, that was an easy one. The basic crime prevention course. It's a 35-hour course originally adopted by the council in 2000, designed to provide law enforcement with the basic skills and knowledge necessary to be a successful crime prevention officer. Topics include presentation skills, community policing, crimes affecting persons with disabilities, elderly and children, as well as strategies to protect property and loss. We're recommending the course be removed because it's only been run 3 times in the past 10 years. And when you take a look at the course, it is significantly outdated. In addition, we have addressed these same training needs through other avenues within the office, through other training initiatives. And so you're familiar with the GIVE initiative, and there's a training component there. A lot of these programs are addressed there, addressed by statutorily required training, specifically when it comes to elderly and juveniles. And so we have a course that's not being run anymore, and the material's outdated, and the training has been replaced. The needs, anyway, with respect to those topics have been replaced by other existing training. And so this is kind of a cleanup, just asking to decommission that course.
All right.
The Police Juvenile Officer Basic Course. It's a 38-hour course originally adopted in 1999 to provide a law enforcement direction on how to navigate cases involving juveniles. Topics include laws of arrest procedures, child abuse, missing persons cases, interview and interrogation, specific to juveniles, diversion programs, and juvenile crime. This is an area where the legal sufficiency of the material being presented is certainly questionable. It's not run by DCJS. It's run by the Juvenile Officers Association, and they're better positioned to make changes to that course with respect to those topic areas as an association. They can still submit the course to us. We'll still document completion for the training record, but the course would be being submitted would be the material and the course content would be directed by the Juvenile Officers Association, who are better positioned really to create content for this course. And so we're asking the council to.
Do you know how many hours they're doing now?
It's approximately the same.
38?
Yeah, 38 hours for the Juvenile Officers Association.
And for this one, like a lot of them, Mike, like we just released juvenile training online. We've redone the SRO program, which has there's a lot of other areas, just to kind of reiterate where, as you all have been keeping it up to date or including it in different areas through the work that you've done here.
Agreed. If there are no questions, I'll move on to the drugs that impair driving course. Originally an 8-hour, also NHTSA program to assist officers in becoming more proficient detecting, apprehending, testing, and convicting impaired drivers. It was an add-on to the SFST program. NHTSA discontinued this course in 2013. So because it's a curriculum maintained by an outside entity that has now discontinued the program, we're asking the council also just to kind of clean up and discontinue this program.
Okay.
The next course is the breath analysis upgrade course, designed to transition previous evidential breath test instruments to the new not new anymore, but current Data Master DMT deployed in the field by DCJS. The technology is the same, but now just offered in a new platform. This course was 4 hours in length and allowed folks that had this previous existing certification to upgrade to be certified to use the new instrument. The last time this was run was in February of 2012, and just the kind of the generational change in law enforcement that makes this course not required anymore. So we're asking for the council to formally decommission this course as well.
Sure.
Can I just ask a question about the breathalyzers? Is it just the DREs that are carrying the breathalyzers, or are there other members of law?
There are 2 different breath tests administered during the course of a DWI arrest. There's the portable breath test, which you're speaking of. The evidentiary value of that breath test is different than the evidentiary value of the course that we're talking here, or the instrument that we're talking about here, the DMT. That is the one that is actually utilized for the purposes of detecting a specific blood alcohol level amount in somebody's blood, would be this DMT. The portable breath test is not admissible in that same fashion. And those are carried by most certified officers. You're welcome, man. I'll move on to the LiDAR operator course developed in 2001. This was the instructor update. So as I mentioned before, LiDAR was added later. This was an instructor update, first approved by the council in 2001. This was to get people that had the previous radar instructor certification to be able to teach also the radar LiDAR operator course. And again, the same issues present here with the generational change in law enforcement. It's no longer necessary. The last course submitted to DCJS was in 2004. And so we're asking the council to clean up this course as well. All right. And last but not least is the DARE Officer Recertification and DARE Officer Training course. The DARE Officer Training Program was initially adopted by the council in September of 1989. At that time, the council recognized that BMP, to Chairman Spike's historical knowledge there, would be the sole agency responsible for coordinating and administering the DARE Instructor Training and Certification Program in New York State. In May 2008, DCJS discontinued to offer this program because funding was also discontinued. It's now offered exclusively by the New York State DARE Officers Association, and that DARE Officers Association also maintains all the records for officers' completion. And so we're not asking, again, we don't maintain this curriculum. It's not a curriculum that we disseminate. It's not a program that is run by DCJS. We're asking, this is essentially administrative cleanup to removing these 2 courses. Okay.
All right. One question that I would have is if anyone, any police or peace officer that took any of these courses in the past, would they remain on the record?
It will remain on the record.
If they what?
Yes, it will remain on the record.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. Okay. Any other questions or concerns from anyone? All right, Natasha, there's 3 motions regarding this particular exercise. Can we read all 3 at the same time, or do you want to do them individually?
Can you do motion 1 separately? And then 2 and 3
Do motion 1 separately, and then 2 and 3 can be done together. All right, would Chief Cassidy, you want to go ahead?
Motion number 1, remove the street encounters, advanced street encounters, general in-service course of police officer, radar operator course, basic crime prevention course, police officer juvenile officer basic course, drugs that impair driving course, breath analysis upgrade course, LiDAR instructor upgrade, and the DARE officer recertification course and DARE officer training course as NPTC approved courses.
I'd entertain a second to that motion. Second by Chief Miller. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same.
Aye.
All right. Thank you, Sheriff. That motion is approved, and now we can go with motion 2 and 3. Go ahead, Chief.
Motion number 2, adopt TASER International's conducted energy device training curricula as MPTC approved training to meet the initial other weapon training requirements of New York State Criminal Procedure Law, section 2.30, subdivision 3.
And go ahead with the next one.
Motion number 3, all conducted energy training, device training reported to DCJS pursuant to New York State Criminal Justice Procedure Law, section 2.30, subdivision 3, be consistent with the TASER model utilized by an agency as MPTC approved training and done in accordance with DCJS course approval and reporting requirements and procedures. All instructors delivering the training must be at minimum all instructors delivering the training must at minimum be a current general topics instructor.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second to those two motions?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Hearing nothing opposed, motions 2 and 3 are approved as well. And thank you, Michael.
Welcome, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, if I could, just while Mike still has the floor here, I just want to take a moment to publicly congratulate Mike on his recent promotion to Public Safety Program Specialist 3. He's going to be overseeing all of the police basic course, non-custodial peace officer basic course, and all the instructor courses that support both of those. So just wanted to take a moment to congratulate Mike on his recent promotion.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Congratulations, Michael. Keep Sarah next to you in case you need to be changed.
I talk to Sarah, I know she gets, I talk to her a lot. But I do want to, that promotion and the position even existing is possible because of the work done by the leadership in our office over the course of a number of years to improve the quality of police training and commit resources to that. And that's appreciated, not just from me, but I know police officers in the real world will appreciate that too if they knew.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy. Okay, the next order of business is the standardized field sobriety testing curriculum update to that. Matthew, go ahead.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the council, and Commissioner. There have been updates to the standardized field sobriety testing training that we're bringing to you today. On the screen is the first training objective, and the only training objective that's changed. It's session 7. Upon completion of instruction of session 7, the student will be, this is the current one, the old one stated, changed from describe the role of psychophysical and preliminary breath test to what you're seeing on the screen as describe tasks and decision making for phase 3. 2, 3, and 4 remain the same, and those are the only changes. That one was the only change in the 2023 curriculum. So we brought that to the attention of the council, the one minor change in curriculum. But we also wanted to talk about how we're presenting the SFST courses in New York State. Now, in the past, it's a 3-day course, 21 hours. When I attended it over 10 years ago, what we went into was block training. And I know Mike has talked about different styles of training in the past with the council. And with block training, I went into it the first day knowing nothing about SFST. I was working newly hired at DCJS at that point, and I was put into the highway safety unit. And I went into with a bunch of recruits. I was in a recruit class, so which was very interesting. And in the recruit class, we didn't know anything about it prior to coming in. And it was a large amount of information just being thrown at us. And it was done in what we termed silo training. There's no contextual relevance. How does this training actually fit into the larger job of being a police officer? So we've been taking a look at, as you know, different training and training aspects. And we thought we can do a better job at this for long-term retention. And I've been thinking about SFST for the last couple of years regarding long-term retention because we see it in our A-RIDE classes and we see it in our DRE interviews. And I've been speaking with the New York State Police Representative Jonathan Cook, who is the GRE. And we all have similar issues. Long-term information and the motor skills that accompany the information. And in today's world, on an impaired driver stop, as you know, it's right down to the finite details of how to prove these cases in court. So we came up with some strategies to maximize the retention of the knowledge and skills required to perform standardized field sobriety tests. Although we do use a NHTSA curriculum, there's an administrator section for New York State and how it should be administered in New York State. And one of the examples in the past was live alcohol workshop. We mandate through the MPTC a live alcohol workshop. In the NHTSA manual, they give an option, dry lab or wet lab. So along those guidelines, we're thinking there's a better way to teach SFSTs. So what we emphasized was priming. It's just introducing new materials before instruction takes place. And we have some ideas which we could take these administrative guide cards. These guide cards were developed in 2020 and updated by DCJS. It talks about the 3 standardized field sobriety tests: horizontal gaze nystagmus, walk and turn, and one leg stand. It's instructions. It's not meant to be read on a traffic stop due to safety concerns, but there's instructions about what you instruct the motorist, and there's color-coded hints on it of what you should be doing and directions to the officer. And if anybody would like to look at these, we can pass these around. But what we're saying is give them to the recruits ahead of time, about approximately 1 week, because we know priming takes the best optimal time is 24 to 48 hours before actual instruction takes place. So we have the information. We want to hand out aids in memorization. It's a 2-sided card. There are a lot of information, and there's a lot of nuances on how to present this in roadside. And it's a lot to take in for recruits. It will lessen anxiety, it will aid in learning, and it will get through what you all learned about is the attentional filter of, I've heard this before, and I'm going to pay attention to these key words when instruction takes place. With that, we also have an idea on there's standardized field sobriety testing videos. In 2021, the DCGS training unit entered into a cooperative agreement with New York State Police, and we developed the videos. Frankly, we just weren't pleased with the NHTSA videos that were included in the package, and we thought we could do a better job. So we teamed with the New York State Police, Trooper Joe Germano, and he's well known in the SFST and DRE communities, and as well as Sergeant Jonathan Cook. And we produced these videos with our media group. They produced professional quality videos that were able to catch the nuances of these standardized field sobriety tests, right down to the horizontal gaze nystagmus that's often missed in DWIs. We have close-ups that adequately show and appropriately show the horizontal gaze nystagmus, for example, to recruits. We believe that giving the priming of the card and the videos to recruits will aid in long-term retention. Studies have shown that if you show videos, observed videos, can aid in the development of neural pathways in the brain, you're starting to lay down the pathways of learning in the brain when it comes to the standardized field sobriety test, because you're watching it. And you're watching it done correctly, you're paying attention to it. With a mental rehearsal, this is where the studies show, the mental rehearsal of performing motor skills strongly activated the motor cortex. That's the frontal lobe, and it's responsible for planning, controlled execution of voluntary movements due to the mirror motor neuron action. I won't make this a science class, but this is where we're going in instruction with DCGS courses. We want to introduce the science of learning, of adult learning, into police training so we can go forward to maximize retention. That's the first part of our plan. The second part is contextual relevance. There's a positive correlation between learning a skill in a realistic environment and the long-term retention of the skill by the recruit. The recruit will learn the motor skills necessary, but as soon as possible after the motor skills are learned, We will contextualize them in the most realistic environment possible at the time, giving the recruits training and experience in that skill set. And what we're saying is, as a basic level, you can do something as easy as low light. So we're taking them, moving them into a low light environment. The motor skill is learned, and we're moving them into now incorporate the skill of a flashlight. It's cross skill training. And then from there, you can do simulated traffic stop, which has, it may be further along in the academy, but you will have different elements of the academy in that traffic stop incorporated. And we know some academies are doing this now, and they're having more success. And as the science shows, that would lead to maximize long-term retention of the knowledge and skills. Do I have any questions?
Oh, no, thanks, Matt. Have you had to make some adjustments regarding this course regarding impaired by drugs or cannabis? Or does A-RIDE address those types of things?
We've introduced a second course, recognized as a cannabis impaired motorist, which takes the skills learned in standardized field sobriety course and incorporates 3 additional tests from A-RIDE. And the course is typically run as soon as practical by the academies after the SFST course. So no, this course was not changed due to cannabis. We introduced the second course.
Good. Any other questions or concerns? Yes, Chief.
Just say, I think this is great. I would love to know how to get this on their phones. You know, in terms of, you know, we talk about this all the time. Like I think we've just, you know, touched the tip of the iceberg and how we can leverage the use of phones. I don't know how extensive they are throughout New York State. I think they are pretty extensive as far as officers now being equipped with them. And how do you take these primers and get them on their phones where it's available? This is how they learn. This is how they understand things. This is what draws them in. And I think we should be using it that way.
And how we disseminate the videos ahead of time in the cards. We would electronically give them to the recruits in a Google download. Mm-hmm. So they should be able to, if they have a smartphone, and everybody does.
Yeah.
To see the
John, you bring up a good point. We'll take note of it. We are, working towards enhancing the ACADA system and making a lot of our electronic training available to all officers through that. We're starting a pilot in the very near future, next week or two, on that. And we've been focusing mostly on the webinars and online training and all officers will be able to get access to this once we got our pilot and get it fully rolled out. But, it's interesting. You raised an interesting point about some of this priming material, and obviously we can talk further with these guys about the possibility of that. But we are working on mechanisms to get other of our online and webinar training more readily available to every officer in the state. And so hopefully, we're doing the pilot, and then we'll see how it goes, and then we'll be rolling it out, but we'll have the ability.
Yeah, I love the idea, just because of the way you're using brain science to figure out, the best way to get this information into their heads and where they can use it and feel comfortable with it. I think that's a big piece of policing right now, is that they need to feel confident. And they need to, the whole point of training them up. One of the things we're doing in the MTAPD is we started a body-worn camera video library, and trying to reverse the trend of in training where traditionally in policing, many of us have been in the business a long time, we're constantly telling this younger generation of officers what not to do. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this. So what we're focusing on in the MTAPD is to take body-worn camera video that is extremely positive, that is, we send it to training, it's vetted to make sure tactically it's been done properly, and then we put it in a library where the officers can pull it anytime they want. And I think the draw for them is that it is by fellow officers wearing the same uniform, working in the same environment they work in, that it's not like what we were exposed to years ago, where it's like a VHS tape from a cop from Nebraska, like talking, with the mustache or whatever it was. And it's just, you don't get that kind of investment or interest there. But when they're seeing fellow officers, and then it generates, we're hoping, we have a lot of hopes for this program, but it generates interest in saying now I'm going to reach out to that officer and find out what it was she did or how she felt at that time. And we're even thinking about voice overlays to let the officers actually explain how they went through a situation. This de-escalation, I'm going to take ownership on the empathy piece. I know they'll laugh at me, but when we see empathy out there, we have to model that behavior and share it with everyone. So it's very similar to what you're thinking about here. And what we figured out was it's got to be between 3 and 5 minutes, because after that you lose people. That's why TikTok is so popular, whether we like it or not. It's because it's those quick hits. Yeah. Can we squeeze in those things to get them to want to pay attention to it, and how does this impact, them being better police officers?
Yeah. Yeah, we've just to play off of that, we've found that by taking just 3 or 4 minutes, like you say, the body-worn camera, dealing with mentally ill people and dealing with use of force situations, and then when they do it right and they do it according to policy, to use that at like roll call training type of thing. And it seems to go over very well.
We're finding officers actually now are starting to identify their own work in scenarios where they felt they did a good job. Still gets vetted by the training unit, but then say, yeah, sure. So it's almost like an employee of the month. Sometimes it's an employee of the day. There's so much good work there.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Chief. Any other concerns, or? All right, yeah, is that it, Matthew? Okay, we've got a couple of motions here. I believe we can do them both at the same time. Thank you. I would entertain, Chief Mueller, you want to do this motion, these two motions?
Motion one, the highway safety.
Yep, action item 3.
Yes. Okay. Motion number 1, adopt the February 2023 edition of the National Highway Safety Administration's DWI detection standardized field sobriety testing curriculum as the minimum standard of instruction required for Part 4, Section Q, DWI detection and standardized field sobriety testing of the basic course for police officers or equivalent and campus public safety officer course. Motion 2, all employers and academies conducting the basic course for police officers or equivalent and the campus public safety officer course beginning on or after September 1st, 2023 must utilize the newly approved curriculum.
We have the 2 motions. Do I hear a second? I have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed, nay? Okay, those 2 motions are approved, and thank you, Chief, and thank you, Matthew, for the presentation. Okay, now we move to informational update items. The physical ability hiring standard, you got that, Josh?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman, and good morning, members of the council. And I promise I'll be very brief. I know I've lied before, but I promise. I just want to update the council and where we're at with the physical ability hiring standard. We discussed this at the September meeting of the previous year about our goal to amend the physical ability hiring component of Part 6000. The council's obviously made significant advancements in enhancing the hiring regulations in terms of background investigation, psychological exams, so on. Right now, I'm pleased to say, and with fingers crossed, hopefully within the next week or 2, we'll be starting the project and launching it. In your packets, I have included a letter that went out to agencies about a week and a half or so ago. You could certainly, take your time to read through that at some point. It's basically an explanation to the agencies of what the goal of the project is and to anticipate future outreach from our agency as we work with the vendor to identify what are the core physical ability standards that are required for today's job of a law enforcement officer. And our goal is hopefully to have a standard in place that where we can amend the regulations, implement a new standard. But I don't want to get too much into the details because I want to make sure the integrity of the project remains as we look to come up with a properly validated standard that can be implemented for all municipal agencies in New York State, obviously outside of state police, but this will be for all municipal agencies that are required to meet the Part 6000 hiring standards. If there's any any questions, I'll be happy to answer. If I can't answer them, I can maybe answer them offline. Just again, to protect the integrity of the project. I want to make sure the data is as tight as can be if it ever needs to be presented in court.
Quick question from NYPD. I'm just curious, have you selected a vendor yet?
Yes, we have. We're working with a vendor. The contract hasn't been executed yet, so I don't want to reveal who that vendor is until we're fully the contract is fully executed.
Okay, thank you.
Possible projected time frame of when it might be.
So there's a fairly long process. It starts with job task analysis. That data is analyzed. A standard is developed. The regulations would need to change. The council would have to vote on those changes. We'd have to train all of our physical fitness instructors how to deliver the new standard. The recruit curriculum would also have to be updated to reflect that new standard. So it's lengthy, but I think there's things that can be done where we can get the new standard out before there's significant changes have to be made to the regulations, where it will be a properly validated standard. And in the regs currently, it allows any agency to use any other properly validated physical ability hiring standard. So this would be one, hopefully, that they could use in lieu of the current standard while we wait for the regulations to change. Am I okay with that,
Natasha? I think it's very much needed. It really is something that is really crucial right now to get people potential. There's so few potential people. And I saw an article about a city that had 800 applicants and 49 passed the physical agility. So it's really crucial that we adjust it to, because some of the things in the current standard just aren't, it's nobody's running a mile and a half because in essence, we've actually gone away with foot chases. It's not safe, under certain circumstances. So it's really, I understand the dimension of having the stamina, but then again, there's other ways to do that. So I applaud. I think it's everything's a move in the right direction. Thank you.
So you're not only talking about a standard for hiring in the first place, but you're talking about the after the basic training academy, what the standard is at that point?
The council's only responsible for the Part 6000, the job offer at the hiring stage, the hiring. Right, and graduating from the academy. Hopefully with what we're trying to do is we'll have a standard that can also be, that's validated for incumbent officers as well. So if an agency decides to use that as a standard, that will be properly validated for them to utilize. But again, that's outside the scope of what the council has the ability to establish as a regulatory hiring requirement. We're talking more in-service requirements, which has been an ongoing issue that I know the council has continued to raise and look at. But I think there's a lot of nuances with arbitration agreements, contractual agreements, things like that.
Well, at one meeting last year, we were showing what NYPD was doing for some of their physical fitness tasks. And so it's just part of your investigation as we go forward.
Right. What would be unique with this standard is that we'll have a standard that if agencies want to require incumbent standard, you'll have a standard that would be developed for that purpose. Now, whether they choose, that'll be a voluntary basis, and the agencies would have to work out the agreements and things with their unions and so on. But it would be available for that use again. But we're focused specifically here. The council's duties is to establish a hiring standard.
Okay, gotcha. Any other questions or concerns? Okay. All right, thank you, Josh. The next update is professional policing mandatory certification. Gabe, please.
Yes, sir.
Go
Good morning,
ahead.
Chairman. Good morning, members of the council, Commissioner. Thank you for this opportunity to speak with you this morning. As the program manager for the accreditation and mandatory certification unit, I just wanted to take a few moments to update the council, provide some background information regarding the mandatory certification of covered agencies. And I also wanted to provide an update on our proposed in-person death notification standard. That standard will be presented at tomorrow's accreditation council meeting. So I will give you some of the background and included, but it has not quite been adopted yet. But the council did support it at our last quarterly meeting. So with the enactment of the New York State Professional Policing Act of 2021, as you all know, the MPPC was directed to establish rules and regulations to ensure that all police officers are held to the same hiring standards and to promote professional policing. The Professional Policing Act also included significant changes to the decertification process and the requirement for the Law Enforcement Agency Accreditation Council to establish a certification process for police departments. The council has since adopted and implemented a certification process. The initial round of certifications occurred at the 2022 December council meeting. A little bit of background and information on the process itself. So in order to obtain certifications, all covered agencies must comply with the hiring standards as prescribed in Part 6000. They must report misconduct to the division as well as the appropriate oversight agency. For example, the Attorney General's Law Enforcement Misconduct Investigative Office. Covered agencies must also comply with Part 6056 of the New York State Codes, Rules, and Regulations, which speak to the Police and Peace Officer Registry. And then lastly, any other misconduct in accordance with Executive Law 75, or again, the AG's office, as far as complaints, use of force issues, things like that. So in an effort to streamline the certification process and avoid, undue burden, obviously being new, we tried to model this process after the accreditation process as closely as possible, but also utilize things that work and work well within accreditation. So we actually incorporated these requirements into our one existing standard, and we created a new standard in accreditation. Those are standard 9.1, which is reporting requirements, and then standard 12.1, which is the hiring standard. So certification requires that all covered agencies, even those non-accredited, have written directives to ensure policies and procedures satisfy each component of these standards and provide proofs of compliance for each standard. Now, each agency must be certified by October 16th of 2023, and they must be certified by the Law Enforcement Agency Accreditation Council. That is the sole body that has the authority to certify, withhold, or revoke these certifications. The first round, again, occurred in December, and our goal is to have all agencies certified by September's Accreditation Council meeting, which again follows this council's meeting on September 13th, I believe. Each agency is assigned an OPS staff member to serve as a coordinator. So each coordinator assigned to the agency will provide technical assistance, answer questions, and just ensure that we help and guide them, through the process and get them certified, because that's the ultimate goal, right? We want to make sure everyone is in compliance and satisfying these requirements. The certification process, again, mirrors that of accreditation, so it's a 5-year cycle. So agencies are required to certify every 5 years. After the initial cycle, only because of the time frame, the first round will vary a little bit. And annually, they will be required to submit an attestation and essentially like a compliance survey where they're issues with, or notifying us so we can assist in compliance. Any inquiries, any questions can be directed to my attention, just as I serve as the program manager. But again, staff is available and assigned to each individual agency. So I know we're already out there and talking with a lot of these agencies. But that's kind of just a high level overview, and wanted to provide that and answer any questions that you all might have.
Well, it could be quite a task. Any given day, there's 545 plus or minus law enforcement agencies in the state. So, and what, a third of them are accredited, maybe?
168 currently accredited.
Okay, more.
And then others,
Yeah.
60, I believe, are applicants. So we're at about 42%.
And you're talking just agencies that employ police officers, not that employ peace officers, correct?
So police agencies, they can also employ peace officers, but not solely peace employers.
Gotcha. Okay.
And you're right, there's 540 that are covered agencies that were required to be certified.
Is there a general area where agencies have been having a difficult time with? You mentioned hiring standards, mentioned filing with the registry. What about written procedures?
I wouldn't say it's a big challenge, but as you can, and you've anticipated, we've experienced similar challenges in the past with psychological examinations. That would be the one area where I think, again, I wouldn't say there's challenges, there's a lot of questions. Smaller departments don't really know where to go, so we're providing that guidance and assistance. On the accreditation side, psychological testing has been required for quite some time, so it really wasn't a shock to the system on that end, but for non-accredited agencies to get into compliance and to adopt these new procedures and policies, just taking a little bit of time, of course.
Thank you.
We just wanted to give you the update as you all created the standards upon which these guys are enforcing it. And thank you for acknowledging it has been a huge lift on Gabe and his staff, but they are very committed and we're going to get us there. But and it's been, I think, a really great opportunity to see the work that you've all done to set those standards being put in place out in the field and being able to support those agencies to get that in place. So just wanted to make sure you were all aware of how it was moving along after you set the initial standards and the regs on that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks,
Any other
Gabe.
questions?
Any other
Just
questions?
that,
Go ahead, Chief.
It's the way it's set up is, I think, done very well, and great job by you and your staff, because provide the feedback and the help to, as you said, to get the agencies certified. So I went through the process already, but we have a vendor that helps. So our policy was there, but it's still very helpful to have somebody say, okay, you meet the checklist or whatever, and what you might do to, if there's an area lacking. Good job, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and the accredited agencies have all been fantastic as far as sharing their procedures, their policies amongst themselves, but also with non-accredited agencies. So thank you for the feedback, and it has been working well so far. All right, if there's no other questions, I'll just take a brief moment to discuss the proposed in-person death notification and major incident standard. So again, this council adopted a model policy at the 261st council meeting for in-person death notifications. You also approved the training program consistent with best practices and recommended to the governor rules and regulations with respect to in-person death notification training. So to conform with best practices, at tomorrow's accreditation council meeting, OPS will be presenting revisions to an existing standard, which is notifying next of kin, and the revisions to that standard will essentially bring us in line with the in-person death notification model policy, and it will require accredited agencies to have a written directive that is consistent with the MPTC model policy. It must also outline in-person death notification procedures, special considerations, and training. So the standard itself is intended to provide, any designated personnel with the tools to deliver the most difficult notification really that is out there, right? I mean, nobody wants to deliver that news, so we're aiming to, arm them with the tools to do that in a professional, and proper plan, right? So the skills, knowledge, preparation, and delivery will all be focused on within the written directive, as well as obviously in the various training that has been provided, and best practices, reference materials, training links, videos, things like that are all being included in a reference link. We've begun providing resource materials for each standard to try to assist the agency in demonstrating compliance, but also meeting the requirements of the standard. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. Each standard is now going to be set up with those reference materials. And again, that is thanks to the work of this council that we're able to provide that. So any questions on the standard or anything else?
No, I don't, any concerns, no? We appreciate the update. It's good to know that some of the work of the council is going forward with accreditation, so thank you, Gabe.
Of course, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, let's turn to any new business that anyone wants to introduce. Concerns? The only thing that I know that the State Sheriff's Association is looking into is regarding some of the specialty courses for corrections and peace officer training things that. So we'll see. I think they're doing a survey, if I'm not Tom, and we'll see. And we can obviously share that. I know they'll share that with you and for more discussion that way. If there's any voids out there, some think there are and some think there aren't. So we'll see what the survey does. So anything else, Deborah? Go ahead.
Quick announcement. We have in Dutchess County, we are doing an elementary cotillion for emergent leaders for kids whose parents have been shot. We are identifying them as new leaders and how to change the narrative. It is going to be on November 4th. It is a formal event. They will do ballroom dancing, and this is their pre-K to 5th grade. So being a member of SNUG and just working with the families, this was a way to early intervention, create these little babies to become leaders. So when they hear of anybody wanting to do anything with violence, they could assert themselves.
What's the age range you're targeting?
4 to 9. 4 to 10, I'm sorry, 4 to 10 years.
4 to 10, wow, okay.
And they're coupled. They'll be in white gowns and black ties. And they're gonna talk about like a children of war story, like my father was shot, and they're gonna identify how they became leaders in working with their peers. So it's related to all of this, so I just wanted to extend it. I will be sending out, I'll send Josh information if anybody wants to attend.
That's great.
Thank you, Deb. Any other concerns or? Okay, I guess that completes our business today. We now, for council members, have to do the ethics training as required by law, they tell me. And Natasha is going to be in charge of that. But all others that are not required certainly can be dismissed and go from there. But
Chief Parisi cannot go.
And some of us have done it also, so we should just say, we're required to do it, but we've done it.
And those that have done it.
You are still required to do it. You may leave because it's only a condensed version, so you will not get credit for it if you stay. Some of the council members I know you are different agencies.
Well, there's still.
Your agency might provide the training for you.
Okay.
Get the full training. Otherwise, like I said, it's condensed training. You have to retake it again anyway, so you may be excused.
Natasha, do we have to have a motion to end?
We'll just.
Well, the fact that they're leaving, you don't even need a motion.
Well,
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
We'll just take a break for a few moments, and then we'll get started. Natasha.
I'm scared if I take the box for this.
Yeah, you certainly can, Chief.
There you did you already do the training?
Okay.
It won't count. Okay, yeah, sorry. Moral
How many times you heard of Safe Haven, right?
There.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I will, I'll finish it.
Yes, nothing's changed.
Keep it centered, centered out.
I'm gonna be reading from my notes. I don't want to be.
I'm the same way. You be off camera.
I don't want to be.
This is not.
So I can read.
This is a Facebook radio. I've always said, I have a radio.
So does it matter if we're not performing anymore? We're not doing anything, so it's fine.
Yeah, do it.
Trainings, this is a training.
And I'm using it.
You know what I mean?
Article was.
I think they've also reached out to you guys, this is just the company, I'm guessing, or they have. They've also reached out to we contracted about. That was good, so that's, yeah, you guys just, your fault. And then he also moved,
I know all the rat, he said, I remember this place distinctly, and I said, would you recommend it? You never did the part of your body.
You know what? My people, my registry to get it in there. That makes sense.
I know the training bureau, thank you. You take care of
Oh, okay.
If I have a meeting about it.
Yeah, if you guys wanna talk, I can speak to it as well.
Oh, this is good. We'll take care of it. We'll see.
You guys have questions about, you know, how the program will work, whatever, we don't,
Yes.
we're kind of just going in, it's more of a reference piece.
Generally.
Yeah, yeah, and we're just.
For us, it's gonna be multi-functional, even when you go to the range, you know, scanning your ID card. It's gonna have all those
Other things to it, yeah, we'll see.
It'll be much higher level, I think, for us.
Yeah. But if you get, because I wanted to follow up, I'd be happy to call with you and my
And you've
staff.
been using it at least for records management for a while.
8 years. And it's been really, very friendly. We have some issues with it, which I can use my staff to talk about it. We actually reached out to Colorado because they moved away from occasions. So we're like, let's find out. We reached out to them. They don't even, they still. Same problem. We have occasions.
Like, we
So they
can,
were
they
like,
can't know, which is good.
At least I know what they are.
That's one, yeah. They're definitely, but, that's another one.
You have to take care of it.
But our staff can obviously speak to it better than me.
Who is the, rep here that's working with the
You feel a little better about
You know what, I gotta connect you with Gabe. I know they've already been in touch with them about you guys doing mandatory search. And I'm like, and we got 4 staff that we're gonna send them to you guys doing mandatory search just because of the thing. You guys aren't accredited through us. Yeah. So I mean, we're happy to work with them too.
certification piece, we got about 4 staff, and I don't know who directly, but I'll ask Gabe. and I'll get back to you.
I wonder how many,
Yeah.
I'm sure somebody security guards.
Gabe, I'll find out, and I'll get it to you. All right, thank you very much, nice to see you.
Over 400 schools.
It's crazy.
The quality's not up to snuff, right? This for that 8-hour course, the 8-hour, there's 8-hour pre-licensing, 16-hour when you start, then there's an 8-hour annual. And then there's a whole separate realm, there's the 47-hour security.
Oh, my gosh.
So she.
Gosh, I'll find out about my.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
I think I